Good morning and welcome, and thanks Apo and the SAFETY4SEA crew for having us. Green-Jakobsen, we are a company traditionally coming from the safety, human element and leadership training environment. We have moved on into a more holistic human performance approach and into strategic consultancy, purely in the maritime sector, or nearly purely in the maritime sector, and have now a strong focus on research, and I would like to present some of our research things and lead briefly into that. Essentially, what drives human performance. Where do we come from? So we have a population of seafarers that we follow over 8 years. We have on all the questions 50,000 respondents, 2,000 interviews with seafarers where we have cross-checked the results that we got from the surveys. And we have this saying that in the maritime industry we know a lot more about how our main engine feels than actually the people who take the decision on board. And one thing that I like to highlight on that in advance is we also take research from other sectors. This is a research actually, or research based from the medical sector, where research was done on surgeons operating or doing surgery in the US. And the interesting part is when a surgeon starts his career, he has a fatality rate of 1%. So every 100 surgeries, 1 dies. With experience, that rate drops to 0.25%. Meaning only 400 surgeries, 1 dies. Okay, that sounds a lot better. But if that surgeon changes the hospital, changes the team in which he operates, it goes all the way back up to 1%. The difference between an experienced surgeon changing team and a new surgeon is only that the trajectory back to the 0.25% is a lot better with an experienced surgeon. Nothing else. That is an important thing to remember, because that means that your performance is very, very much what we call context-based. Meaning, if the environment is right, you have a lot better performance than if it is not. And as a side example, we also know that, in example, the US Navy SEALs, their main focus is what we call psychological safety, meaning how does a team perform together. Why is that? Well, obviously, these guys, when they perform, they are pretty sure they are under stress. And what we know from research, and we know this from Google, they have done some research, or Alphabet, and Microsoft, they have also done some research. Both have done that research with a Danish company, and then the Danish mafia comes together, and we are a Danish company. So they shared some of their research with us. And what we have learned is essentially that if the psychological safety, or what we sometimes call social reflectivity, if there's no high focus on that, also the task reflectivity will suffer, and it will suffer tremendously. And we can see that on the vessels, because we have this data from over 8 years. The data that I show now is from 2022. This is a population of 320 vessels. Meanwhile, it's a lot more vessels actually, but these are all the vessels, and you can already see that there is a direct connection between those that have a high psychological safety and a high task focus. What is interesting also that we see some of these dots, every dot representing a vessel, are, so to speak, out of that line. And one of the most interesting one is the lowest dot that we can see there. They have quite a good psychological safety, but they have a very low task reflectivity. What does it mean? Well, it means they have a task reflectivity of 40%. The lines in the middle are 50% lines. That means they do, in 60% of all cases, they do violate a procedure or best practice, and they know about that. What has happened there is, and that's interesting because we have talked to that vessel a lot, they actually had a change in senior management team. New senior management team came on board, found an absolutely dysfunctional vessel, and the first thing that they did, and they did that right, is they implemented a more open and trusting environment. As this is obviously the data from 2022, in 2023 we know that this vessel has significantly improved also on the task focus. That is one of our long-term customers. They are doing this program for 5 years, and that is really one of the best companies in our industry. They have it's a tanker company, and not very surprising, I guess. They have a SAIA vetting average less than 1. So relatively good, these guys. That is a new company, and there we see again this vessel. And also quite interesting, there you also see 6 vessels on the very, very top. Unfortunately, these guys are cheating. We caught them. We have an algorithm running in the back. It's what we call Kronbach alpha analysis that essentially checks for patterns. And then we also have some other measures. And then we had a chat with the people, and actually 5 of them confessed they were cheating. And we had one very stubborn guy here. Well, that's a different story. But the interesting part on that one is that we can pretty much tell vessels, or can tell where a vessel at a certain time is in terms of their crew performance. All the data is anonymous, so we can't pin it down to people, but obviously there's only 4 senior officers, and it's not the second engineer who's the most influential there. So we know quite well how a senior management team influences the performance of a vessel. And now you see that the format of that has a little bit changed, and the interesting part is that is because this is a slide from a different presentation. It's a presentation that I did hold in an officer seminar of one of our clients, another tanker company. And so I presented all kind of statistics for their vessels, and also this what we call an overall collective intelligence score. And you can see that they have these 4 vessels that are lagging behind. And the interesting part was when I was finished with my presentation, directly after me, the head of vetting was presenting, and he had 4 vessels lagging behind. I have to admit, the lowest vessel is not the worst vessel. It's the second worst vessel. And so rank last and the one are changed. But other than that, it was the same 4 vessels that were underperforming in the vettings. And we also have done, meanwhile, more research. We can see that vessels who are scoring low on the collective intelligence are having a much, much higher risk of having trouble in vettings, port state control, and incidents. On the incidents, the data is extremely vague. We don't have that many incidents. And another thing is that this data comes from our customers, which have an LTIF that is 50% or lower than 50% of industry average. So these are already the good guys, so to speak. That makes it also a little bit more difficult, so to speak, to judge on incidents. What that means is that if we direct attention to these matters, especially when we have a low psychological safety score, if we direct the attention to that, most senior management teams are actually not aware of that. They don't understand or don't see that they might have an issue on board how the environment is. Quite often they are actually as happy as could be and don't understand that they are junior officers and their ratings are not. So when we put attention on that, we can change a lot. And that is one of the things where also we can do more research, more analysis, and where we essentially can go into how is that done. One of the best examples, this is research that we've done for 3 of our customers, and on leaders giving informal feedback. And as you can see, the R-squared is very, very low. So there is no significant relation between an informal feedback and an improvement of the performance on board, which is a little bit surprising because we all the time hear about informal feedback, mentoring. And the interesting thing about that is when we go to leaders giving positive informal feedback, the R-squared is a lot better, meaning there is a strong relationship between giving informal positive feedback and performance. That is obviously motivating people, not very surprising. If you give informal negative feedback, very, very weak relation again, but if there is a relation, it's always negative. It's not doing anything good. That's why we know, okay, informal feedback in itself doesn't do much. Positive informal feedback, yes, it does. So, but obviously we have to, at some point, issue critique. We have to bring up the negativities too. What we find is if you have a negative formal feedback, it's perceived a lot more positive. And that is pretty much then where a lot of our research work starts, where we start having interviews. And what we learned, that if you issue informal negative feedback, an example, the person who is criticized feels that he or she does not have a chance to reply in any proper way, simply because there's a barrier of ranks, usually. So it is an informal feedback, yes, but it is usually on board ships, it is given from authority. In a formal setting, we usually have the spaces where also the person that is criticized can actually have a proper reply. And therefore the whole thing becomes more fair and is actually very strongly positive, even though the relation is not that strong, but the outcome is positive. That is pretty much just some examples from our research that we do, and I hope that it was of some value for you. Thank you.